Israel's first best friend. You may not believe it. It was the Soviet Union on May 14, 1948. Israel announced its establishment 3 days later. Moscow was the first to officially recognize him. At that time, the armies of 5 neighboring countries are coming from 3 sides. This new country is at stake. If it weren't for a hand reaching out from the east, he may have died within a few days of the founding of the country. See the world through a Cold War. See today, clearly welcome to the Cold War interpretation. I am Governor Yang Guo. The Cold War entered its second year, the Middle East, in 1948. This is not a front-to-front arm wrestle between the US and the Soviet Union. It's more like a third-party chessboard. Hands from both sides came in, but there is no winner or loser. Let's talk about Episode 8 today, Ben-Gurion. One day founded V country as 1-1 chessboard, 2 hands, November 29th, 1947, the United Nations General Assembly on Palestine branch scheme voting, 33 votes in favor, 13 votes against 10 tickets are complete. The plan has been approved by a majority of more than 2/3 to put this British trust for almost 30 years cut into 1 kosher and 1 Arabic. Interestingly, who was in the yes vote? America voted yes, the Soviet Union also voted in favor, even the waves on the Soviet side. Czechoslovakia, Ukraine also voted in favor, 2 in Europe. A red-faced opponent, we're all in unison about this. Each has its own abacus, and within Washington, I almost blew up the sky for this flag. On the opposing side is Secretary of State Marshall, together with the State Council, the Pentagon batch, those who will support the Soviet strategy in the future, they count the chief. There are 30 countries on the Arab side, hundreds of millions of people holding the oil of the Persian Gulf. Once the Jewish state is recognized, the other party either cut off the oil of the West or turn around and throw yourself into the arms of the Soviet Union. At a White House meeting on May 12, 1948, Marshall said in front of the president, if the president admits he will vote against it himself in the next election, this is the ticket that has been available since Truman became president. The heaviest blow I've ever suffered, but Truman did the task. His account is the other 2. First, in 1948, there was an election. He lags behind domestic Jewish voters in polls. He wants this ticket. The second is to admit it before the Soviet Union, lest this new country plunge into Moscow. Moscow's plan is Britain has been operating in the Middle East for decades. A new country is emerging just in time to pry the British power loose. And here's the intriguing thing. Both sides of the abacus ended up missing. Marshall was afraid that recognition would push Israel to the Soviet Union, but it was the Soviet Union that sent the life-saving gun. Truman was the first to admit. Instead, it became a stop to Israel, the key to Moscow. The moment the distribution plan falls on the paper, the fire was actually lit. The second day of voting, the local Jew, the man, and the Arab started fighting. The riots in the first 2 weeks of December 1947 alone, nearly 100 people died on both sides. 2 superpowers. It's a paper map. Beyond the map, that land is already bleeding. On the second day, the siege of the Vi country was founded, May 14, 1948. In the museum in Tel Aviv, a short, bold man, the loudest man, came forward. The Declaration of Independence was read out in less than 1,000 words. His name is David Ben-Gurion. The moment the manifesto is read, he became the first prime minister of the new country. 2 days ago, 13 people voted in a provisional body. Do you want to establish a country immediately? 3 of them were caught in the crossfire and couldn't make it. Even the citizens are temporarily photographed. The name Israel was 6-3. It was decided over other options. After reading the manifesto for a few hours, as soon as midnight, the British mandate for this place has officially expired. The last British troops begin to withdraw. Just 11 minutes after midnight, Washington was the first to announce that it had won the first place. 3 days later, on May 17, 1948, Moscow follows. It is given a higher level of legal recognition, became the first in the world officially recognize his country. Who will recognize the 2 superpowers first? Almost a run. Recognition is recognition. The next morning, the real test comes May 15, 1948, Egyptian Transjordan, Syria, Iraq, the regular army of the 5 Lebanese countries, from the south and northeast. The 3 sides are simultaneously charged with overseas plus Saudi Arabia, the reinforcements in Yemen this day. The new country can mobilize about 30,000 troops, not a single tank, a decent heavy artillery. The Air Force only has a few small planes. Opposite light, Jordan, the Arab Legion led by British officers, it's the most well-equipped force. Arab League, publicly threatening to wipe out opponents. The first few weeks, the firepower of the 5 countries is indeed increasing under the pressure of Xingwo. The Jordanian army once stormed the old city of Jerusalem. On May 28th, the Jewish garrison in the Egyptians push all the way from the south towards Tel Aviv. Both superpowers recognize you, but no one takes a bullet for you. 3 life-saving guns were shipped from the east. Fight with guns. But here in the west, the United States was shipping weapons to all parties in the Middle East. At that time, won't sell a single gun to this new country. It was the Soviet Union that actually brought in the lifesavers. To be exact, it just changed in February. Czechoslovakia, in Moscow's camp, our superior left a button on this line. January 1948, the one in Prague. The foreign minister, who later fell to his death under the window, Masaryk, signed the first arms contract in person. After the change of weather, the new government nodded to Stalin and they went ahead and did it. The first shipment of ammunition landed on April 1st, 1948, unload 4,500 latch guns, at once 200 machine guns, millions of rounds of ammunition, 25 before and after Avia fighter converted from German fighter jets. Jack's hand for this, the new country has trained 82 pilots. Bungu Ryan later said that there were no such guns. This battle will not last. May 29th, 1948, the fiercest Egypt in the 5 kingdoms, an armored column. It has advanced to only about 30 kilometers away from Tel Aviv. Just this day, 4 just assembled. The Avia fighter jet pounced down on killing a few old planes. It didn't make many waves, but the Egyptians had no idea there was a plane over there. Get hit hard. The offensive stopped as soon as the gun is in place. The account was slowly moved back. From the end of May 1948, the United Nations has brokered 2 ceasefires. The new country took a breather and reorganized its army, spread the guys from Eastern Europe on all fronts, and wait, in July and October, he attacked and defended twice. North takes Galilee. The south escorted the Egyptians back to the Kasaya area, moved to the west at the end of the year. By January 7th, 1949, the main gunshots basically stopped. The new country survived. It's a bigger circle than the day the war started. The shots stopped. And then we draw lines on the map. February to July 1949, of the 5 opponents, 4 of them signed armistice agreements with Israel. Iraq does not share a border with Israel. Withdrawal without a single signature. It was Benki, the UN mediator. The location was chosen in Rhodes, Greece. He also clenched his fist for this trip. Won the Nobel Peace Prize that year. The points system was originally only for this Jew. About 55% of the trust areas in Taigo finished this battle. He actually grabbed about 78%. Jordan occupies the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Egypt controls the Kasaya. These counties are just military boundaries of the ceasefire, not counting final borders. They called it Green County. The cost of winning is not clear. This new country, with a total population of just over 600,000. About 6,000 people died in the battle. Almost 1 in every 100 citizens left. The regular armies of several Arab countries have also lost thousands of men. The greater cost falls on the local Arabs. In this year, more than 700,000 Palestine Arabs have left their original homes, scattered Jordan, Gaza, Lebanon, refugee camps in Syria. In Arab predictions, this year was a disaster of succession. But at the moment of the ceasefire in 1948, which side will this new country take? Undecided. Within 41 years, both hands switched positions. In 1948, this end was handled by the Soviet Union. the first to be recognized by law. Another life-saving gun was sent by Jack, but by January 1949, Israel's first general election, the pro-Moscow political forces failed to rise to power. Stalin immediately stopped. Jack arms follows broken bow. Almost simultaneously, January 31st, 1949, Washington adds formal legal recognition. Take over the position step by step for the next few decades. The top two who still raised their hands together at the United Nations in 1947. In 1949, he withdrew. One comes to the front desk. How to burn behind this tinder? There are a few episodes left for later in the series. Golda Meir, Yom Kippur War. And that put the world's oil prices, the first oil crisis. The roots are all in the spring of 1948, bathing in Israel in May. While blood stands firm, Berlin, more than 2,000 kilometers away, Stalin was looking at a lonely city and sharpening his knives 1 month later. June 1948. He gave an order that no one expected. Don't fire a shot. Strangled the entire road in West Berlin, no grain, no power, siege over 2 million people in the city. He's betting that the West won't hold up, pack up and leave, but the West neither fought nor retreated. Instead, he looked up at the sky, a lonely city choked. Don't rely on the ground, don't rely on shooting. How do you survive? Two superpowers head on for the first time. Who blinks first? Follow me for the next episode.